the Deck 1 Industrial Edition by Theory 11. Now that is what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be checking out this deck of cards. And if you want it for 10% off, you can get it in the description from cardvocate.com, who have provided a discount code for you for 10% off. So I don't see why you wouldn't be getting this deck, because now it's even cheaper than it would have been before. But you don't want to just take my word for it that it's going to be a great deck, because although you already know Theory 11, or if you don't, are you okay? Mental, you good? I mean, I am. Literally I am. But that's for another day. But for now, we're going to be looking at Deck 1 Industrial Edition by Theory 11. So make sure to check out cardvocate.com. Thank you for sending me this deck. And let's get into this review right now. So as you can see, I'm still standing, and we're doing the deck review this way this time. So I've never really done a deck review like this, but this is always the first time for everything. So we're going to see if we like it this way, or as you guys have always done it, back down on the mat. So at the end of the video, I'd love for you guys to let me know which way you guys like it better. Either this way, standing up and just showing you guys everything that I see, or if you guys want it to be more first impressionistic down the mat. Now, again, this is still done first impression style. Not going to change up how I'm doing it, and just where I'm looking at it from. So, let's get into it. Now, the front of the tug box says Deck 1 Industrial Edition, and it has a split spade straight down the middle. Looks like almost two arrowheads coming together as one. Now, I'm not sure if there's a specific reason for that, or if it just looks like it was more sawed in half to make it look a little bit more industrial. But that's really it for design work. It has the 6 lines on the corners and the sides, if you didn't catch that before. And it's done in this really cool bluish black tone. And that is done all the way around the outside, and everything on there is embossed. Now, embossed is when everything is raised, and debossed is lowered. You'll see a lot of the High Victorian decks have a lot of embossing and debossing. This deck is only embossed, which does make a lot of sense for this deck. Different decks need different things. Now, the right side says the U.S. Playing Card Company, made in the USA. Now, clearly, USPCC, as we all know and love, is the best place to get playing cards. So, stock-wise, this is going to be the best way to go. Let's just be real. What's a better place than USPCC? Some people are going to say Cardamundi. Well, it depends on how you phrase that. If you're saying printed by Cardamundi, you're wrong. Cardamundi also owns USPCC, which then you are right, because USPCC is still the best place to print through. And the other side says Deck 1 Industrial Edition, and then the designer, Homer Anthony Lawag. Although I don't know how to say his Lawag. How do you say his last name? L-I-W-A-G. Lawag. I don't know. That's how I'm going to say it, because it's my review. So, that is the designer of this deck. I love when designers put their own name on it, so you always know who to contribute to, even though it's through Theory 11, that's just the card company. You always want to know who really designed it. That might be happening on another deck as well. For the bottom of the tuck box, it is just the Theory 11 logo. And for the back, it is just, of course, the back design. But we'll get into that in a second. No sneak peeks. Once again, on top, it says Deck 1 Industrial Edition. If you haven't figured out which deck this is, it has now said it 3 times just on the tuck box. On the inside tuck flap, the main tuck flap, you will see the 3 dots and 3 lines at the top and bottom. Why that is, I don't know. Then, of course, on the inside tuck flaps, you have, once again, those lines. And the inside of the tuck box is all white. That's it. So, what's next? Of course, let's get into the cards. Now, for the back design, you're going to have the same thing that was on the back of the tuck box. It has kind of like a Millennium Falcon type of vibe. Although I've never seen Star Wars, I do know what that one ship is. Yes, I've never seen Star Wars, so for all you Star Wars fans, I'm sorry. Not really sorry, I'm a Marvel fan. That's really where I stop. So, that whole Star Wars thing, I don't really understand it. But this deck does remind me of the Millennium Falcon, because that's about it as far as my Star Wars knowledge goes. Besides that, you do have a lot of interlocking circles that kind of look like grinding gears. It's kind of an impression I get from it. Besides that, you have that same two-tone color of these faded blues and whites. And then you have the border, which is probably my favorite part of this back design. It's this border, but it's not all straight lines. It goes with wherever the back design goes. I mean, seriously, check that out. Wherever the back design goes, that's where the border goes. So sometimes you'll have a thick border, and sometimes you'll have a thin border. So it really just depends on where you're actually looking at it from, which does make it cool, and it has a circle back design, which makes it really fun for cardists. And as far as I can tell, it is a two-way back design, so when you flip over the deck, it does not change at all. But enough with the back design, let's get into what the faces look like. Now, first you have the Jokers. It almost looks like kind of a sad face, which is kind of depressing, but made out of the same type of metal parts from the back design. It will say Joker in both corners, but this time going sideways instead of just going straight up and down. Jokers are sideways, so you actually have to turn it like that or like this, depending on which way you're going, to see how it actually says Joker. And the top and bottom around the outside of the main part of the Joker actually has more of a shadow on the top and bottom, just for extra effect. Almost looks like it got a little bit of dirt on it, although I didn't get it dirty. I promise. It's how the deck came. Not dirty. This gives it more of a little bit of a rustic feel. And of course, yes, they are duplicate Jokers, which makes it fantastic for Magic. Now the number cards are all completely standard, so there's nothing you have to worry about with this, which makes it fantastic for Magic tricks and gameplay, because completely recognizable faces, and you won't ever have to worry about spectators saying, is that a 2 or is that an 8? I can't quite tell because of how overdone it is. Like, sometimes the great designs are so great that you can't even read what the faces are, which is really difficult for when you're doing gameplay and Magic tricks. But in all fairness, this deck has that covered. Although I do wish there would have been at least a little bit of a more rustic feel, so if you had a little bit of a faded red and a faded black, make the blacks a little bit more grayish blue, probably more of a gray with a bluish tint to it, just like more looks like a little bit scratched out. I think that would have been really cool considering of how industrial themed this is, but then keeping everything so standard. But it does make a lot of sense because 311 does keep all of their decks with standard numbers. Now we have the Spades, the Diamonds, the Clubs, and the Hearts. And this is what I meant by a little bit more rustic. It had a little bit of that faded tone all around the outside of it, and all the colors have been shifted to this same colorway, which makes it absolutely perfect. You'll see that all the colors have been stripped, and it just leaves whatever the pips and indices are. Besides that, everything stays with the deck. Everything looks faded, it looks rustic, it looks industrial. The colorway is all with that blue and gray tone. It makes so much more sense for the deck, and I wish that all of the numbers would have fit the same way that the court cards did. The court cards, for me, honestly, are perfect. I wouldn't have changed anything about these court cards. There's literally nothing else I would have done in relation to these court cards for this deck. It fits absolutely perfectly. And of course, all of these cards are bicycle standard since it is from USPCC. And then for our 3 aces, we have all of them, but they are all standard as well. And again, I always love it when they're a little bit enlarged or something has been done with these 3 aces just so it has a little bit of extra flair, and the Ace of Spades isn't the only one. I love when the Ace of Spades is the best, but you have those other 3 aces that are like, oh, they did a little bit something extra with it. And that's always just fun for me. But once again, it does make it really easy for people to know what you're dealing with. Sorry, that was really bad. I'm going to be an awful dad. My dad jokes. So card number 54, you have a double backer. And number 55, you have an actual ad card. Now usually we just have like the ad cards, but this one's an actual ad card. But you still want to see the Ace of Spades. And this one says, United States of America, Deck 1 Industrial Edition. And once again, it has the front of the tuck box on here, and it has that faded look. See, it's not that hard. Put a little bit of that rustic look around it, a little bit of faded shadow action, and it works perfectly. I don't understand why they couldn't have done this on the rest of the deck, but it makes so much sense. And the other thing I like better on this in the front of the tuck box is this little gear that it has in the middle of it on the Ace of Spades that it doesn't have on the front of the tuck. And I do think that they missed out not making that go hand in hand, because then I think you could have done some really cool magic tricks with that. But I guess they just missed the mark there, or never thought of it. That's why I do these deck reviews. How does it look when, let's see, fanning? That's what it looks like when doing a fan. I'll do that one more time because I just love it. That's what a fan looks like. And I'm going to get into everything else right here. Not only does it look good, but you want to know how it feels. So when you're just doing a simple card spring, quick dribble, is definitely a thicker stock. It's either a crushed or a standard B stock. There's only two stocks at USPCC. There's the classic and then the B stock. That's really it. The B stock is the same casino grade stock. It's the thicker stock, and you have the classic stock, which is the thinner stock, which is on most bicycle decks. So this one is definitely the thicker stock, and although it feels great, it feels a lot like what the Cherry Casinos would, excluding the finish. I do believe this finish is the linen finish, although I'm not really as big of a fan as the linen finish. I do like just the standard finish, just personally. Another thing you will notice is that the top and sides are less rough than a normal deck, which is fantastic. I hate it when you have to open up and you're like, start sanding these things down with like a fingernail sander, or what are those things called? A filer. There we go. And you have to take a fingernail filer. Like, I've never actually done that. Okay, maybe once on a bicycle deck just to experiment. But besides that, you hate when you have to like break these things in, and then you're like, oh, finally got it broken in, and the sides are still all tough. Like, can't stand that. Honestly, I really can't stand it. So, this deck is a little bit less. It's not all the way. It's a little bit less. And I don't really know if there's anything you can do about it when printing, but it is what it is. This deck is a little bit more rough. Now, can this deck Faro? I don't know. Let's see if it can. So, from top to bottom, there's two ways to Faro deck. Okay, I don't know if you guys could tell that. No issues whatsoever. Literally no issues. Let's do it again. A little bit closer up. Bam. Like literally no issues top to bottom. Let's see bottom to top. Still easily doable. A little bit more of a challenge. Wasn't as smooth. Wasn't hard. It just wasn't as smooth. Let's do it one more time though. Yeah, so still is going exactly every other, as you can see there. But it's just because of that rough outside, it just makes it a little bit harder. That's really all I can say about the Deck 1 Theory 11 Industrial Edition playing cards. Now, if you want to pick them up for 10% off, use the discount code in the description below. Pick them up for yourself. Let me know if you get them. And question of the day about playing cards. Do you like cards that are embossed on the tuck case or without embossing? That is my question for today, so let me know how you feel down in the comments below so I can make sure to maybe hook you guys up with something. Might give you guys a little bit of a quick sneak peek, if you know what I mean. And that's all I can say for now. So, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Ring the bell if you haven't already, because it does help. Those things really do help the channel when you do them. It notifies you when a new video comes out, a new deck review, which I do every single Wednesday. So literally every single week I'm doing a new deck review. Look at all those cards back there. See all those cards? Like, seriously, like almost all of them have been reviewed. I have like 50 deck reviews here on the channel. I mean, there's 100, so like half of them. But like, you get what I'm saying. You don't want to miss any of that content. You really don't. And half those, I can find discounts for. So if you're like, Elijah, I want this deck. I wish I had it cheaper. Like, hey Elijah, what you need? Hey Elijah, I need this. Hey, I got you. So, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you guys out. So if you guys ever need a specific tutorial, a specific deck reviewed, literally anything, just make sure to drop a comment or email me or DM me on Instagram so I can make sure to hook you guys up. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Smash that like button. This is Card Perfect. Signing off.